Former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted by a federal grand jury. You may remember Comey's tenure at the head of the Bureau coincided with the beginning of Trump's first term and the 2016 investigation into whether Trump's first campaign colluded with Russia to win the presidency. That investigation drew the ire of Trump, who fired Comey in 2017.
Comey has been charged with giving false statements and obstruction of a congressional proceeding, both connected to testimony he gave to the Senate Judiciary Committee back in September of 2020. If convicted, Comey could face as much as 5 years in prison. In response to the indictment, Trump posted to Truth Social, quote, "Justice in America. One of the worst human beings this country has ever been exposed to is James Comey, the former corrupt head of the FBI. Today, he was indicted by a grand jury on 2 felony counts for various illegal and unlawful acts. He has been so bad for our country for so long and is now at the beginning of being held responsible for his crimes against our nation."
Comey, for his part, responded with a video posted to Instagram. Let's take a listen.
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump, but we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees. My heart is broken for the Department of Justice, but I have great confidence in the federal judicial system, and I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Now, this all comes just days after the president fired Eric Siebert, the then U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, for failing to bring charges against another of Trump's longtime political rivals, New York Attorney General Letitia James. Trump then urged Attorney General Pam Bondi in a Truth Social post to prosecute Comey and James, along with Senator Adam Schiff, who led Trump's first impeachment in the House.
In an unusual twist, Joy Behar, co-host of The View, says that she actually agrees with Trump's disdain for Comey, but for a different reason. Take a listen.
I don't like Comey. I agree with Trump on this one.
You don't like Comey because of what he...
I don't like what he did to Hillary.
Joy.
I don't like what he did to Hillary.
So therefore he should be prosecuted?
No.
But
I rarely have something that I agree with Trump on. So this is one thing.
But you don't like him.
But Joy, some would say he was doing his job, James Comey.
What, at the last minute to bring out this baloney, baloney thing?
Some would
Get
say
out
he
of
was
here.
I think the key there is that she said, I don't like him. And President Trump says, I don't like him, but we need to go to the furthest extent of the law. And law should not be wrapped and intermingled with personal feelings. Like, there's a little bit of very obvious political retribution here. And I think that the Justice Department is meant to be apolitical and is structured that way so that our entire country doesn't lose faith in how it's supposed to operate. And when you think about Trump's political enemies and even the Truth Social message that he sent to Pam Bondi, that people were trying to figure out if it was supposed to be a direct message to her directly or if it was meant for the world to see, was very much a pressure, like do something. And he's had several people say they don't want to do this. They don't think this is a good idea. And a lot of prosecutors saying, I don't know how far this is going to go as far as like actually proving that this man is guilty and should be in jail for 5 years.
Yeah, the mainstream media reports when Eric Siebert was pushed out of the job and replaced by Lindsay Hallinger suggested that this was a rushed investigation, that it was sort of thrown together haphazardly, and that the attorneys in Siebert's office did not believe that there was enough evidence. But Catherine Herridge, formerly of CBS, now independent, reports that there actually was a quite long investigation, that the case was ready to go as soon as the attorney turned over. Siebert was apparently blocking the prosecution. And of course, they presented these materials to a grand jury, which very quickly indicted James Comey, because there is really quite a lot of evidence that he did lie to Congress. One of the most important pieces of evidence is that in his testimony, he claimed that he never authorized media leaks from the FBI. But when his deputy, Andy McCabe, testified later, he said that Comey directed him personally to leak things to the media. So obviously one of them wasn't telling the truth. It was either James Comey or Andy McCabe.
Yeah, I think when we look at the series of events, because you said, Siebert didn't want to move forward with it, but now we have an inexperienced prosecutor who hasn't done cases like this in the position that he was just in, who has been in the job for less than a week, who is a Trump ally, who's like, let's move forward. So you're saying mainstream media is kind of consuming it and reporting it this way. Those are some of the facts that happened, is that somebody came in, immediately action was taken, several other people said this wasn't a good idea, and then now we're off to the races.
Yeah, my point was that they claimed that this was based on shoddy evidence or a rushed investigation, but really that portion of it had been going on for a long time. It was just that Siebert didn't want to ultimately pull the trigger to seek that indictment.
So the New York Times was saying that when they looked at the indictment, it's kind of bare bones. They said, obstructing Congress, it was a little bit of a vague charge. And, saying that Comey lied is going to be really hard to, and they weren't giving an opinion. They were kind of talking to prosecutors and analyzing, like, proving that and moving forward, how much he actually knew when he was under oath beforehand and then after. So it's just like, is this worth the time, effort, and money for the same administration that was so frustrated that they felt that they were always politically prosecuted and went on an entire campaign season as the victim, President Trump, saying that he's always on the brunt of or receiving end of political persecution, to then turn around and do this and make it a point to try to do this to all your enemies, including most recently trying to get Letitia James. It's just like there has to be a better use of our time, resources, and money.
James Comey, I think, is being held to the same standard that he held other people to when he was at the FBI, because he infamously said about Martha Stewart in regards to her perjury charges related to alleged insider trading that she needed to be made an example of, and that if people thought that they could just lie to government officials and get away with it, then that would set a bad precedent and other people would do it and we would basically have chaos. So we've got to throw the book at Martha Stewart. So I feel like if that's his position on lying to government officials, it's not a stray from me. It's
I'm saying from him. Yeah,
absolutely.
She's like,
well, and I think he was the prosecutor on the case. I'm sure someone will fact check me in the comments, but I know he was deeply involved. So, I mean, if that's his standard, then I guess he's just being held to the same one.
You know what? The thing is, like, the ping pong will endlessly go back and forth. And, like, say we get a Democratic president. My concern is that we continuously do this. And then let's say they match the pettiness and they're like, okay, well, I'm going after any. Some of them might have validity. Some things might not. Even with the big thing of trying to relitigate and see if you could litigate a president, former President Obama, regarding Russia. It was like, are we seriously going back 2 presidents ago to try to figure out? It's just exhausting. Like, are we really going to try to do this? And I know you feel strongly about Russia. We don't have time to get into it.
I know.
But I just feel like, is that how we want to spend the next decade? Is that the change that we thought that President Trump was going to bring?
If we could have mutual disarmament and the Democrats would agree not to prosecute their political opponents, I think Republicans would respond in kind.
Well, Republicans have a new tactic to push funding deal through. That's why Democrats are saying they won't be intimidated after the break. We're going to talk about it. Don't go anywhere.